because we really want this to be a dialogue. I can't see a thing because there's a light shining right in my eye, so just step up to the microphone, please.
Hi, it's Joe Morris from Maryland Capital. This is mainly for Ira. I guess I'm trying not to hear a grow or die scenario here for a small CDFIs, but what do you visualize well, number one, what is scale and what do you visualize these 30 CDFIs looking like? Will they be able to give pass-throughs like OFN, be intermediaries to us intermediaries, or just absorb us?
You know, I think it's a very good question because first, we were not looking at this as the limit of the program, and we think it should be aspirational so that it could go well beyond 30. As I indicated to you, we started with 3 major institutions internationally, and there are now at least 200 investable institutions. So I think it should be open to institutions who want to scale. We haven't set any parameters at this point. It's not up to us. It would be up to members of your industry to look at it carefully and decide what would make sense. Also, I think the CDFI funding program that's in place should stay in place, and funding be made available for niche regional players. I don't think there should be exclusion on size if you're making great impact, but we want to ready institutions to escape from a total dependency on subsidized funding and be able to fund in the market. And so the idea of having 30 is that they achieve an investable status, and that would mean they get rated, they report their data, they have audited financials, just like any financial institution that's investable. There's no magic, there's no silver bullet to it. So I think it would be, after this conference, it would be up to a group of wise people to come together, leading institutions, and to sort of lay out those parameters. Treasury asked us, we've had several encounters with Treasury, and they're quite intrigued, but they want to make sure they could do it within the parameters of their CDFI fund and not have to go to Congress or create a new law. And we would not encourage that they exclude others, but they have this carve-out facility. It could be even managed by an investment fund or 2 or 3 investment funds. I failed to mention before that several of the investment funds around the world are public-private, that the bilateral donors like the German government, the Dutch government, the Norwegian government have fund microfinance through sort of private arms like the World Bank's International Finance Corporation, the IFC. And so they've taken stakes in these investment funds, as have private investors, including Dutch pension funds, for example. So, or a private investor from Atlanta who made a lot of money in real estate has put a lot of money into microfinance internationally. He could as easily have been captured domestically if the conditions were right. So we want to prepare a number of investors to go to the capital markets over time. And this doesn't have to take a long time to get there. I'm predicating 5 years. So I want to be clear, we don't see it as exclusionary, and we certainly recognize that there's a space for small institutions. Internationally, there are about 10 to 12,000 MFIs, and I mentioned 200 leading investable institutions. There are many more, many more that are sustainable because the whole industry caught the message. And so many institutions are fully sustainable and raise money in local capital markets or from the interbank market in their country. So size is not the issue. Each institution can make its own decision, but we think there's a need for a number of larger core institutions that are going to drive scale in the sector.
I want to pick up on Ira's comment on investability. Investability really is critical if we're going to scale. Investability is how we bring more dollars into each institution at lower total cost, meaning not just the interest rate we pay, but all the cost that goes into attracting that capital. And there's no way that we get out of the cycle of small dollars being lent by small institutions unless we bring more dollars into the space through capital markets. The international experience was that had to be done through large institutions, each of which was defined by a specific set of methodologies. And here in the US, we have some examples of that as well. Grameen America, for example, is a very unique, very interesting model. What's interesting, though, about the new technologies that we heard about earlier today, and there are more, plenty more out there, is that they actually enable a new model of capital markets access that does enable smaller institutions to remain relevant and grow and have the impact they want to have. Because we in the US have this rich data set, and because we're able to leverage these best practice technologies, a small institution utilizing one of those technologies can access capital markets just like a larger institution, as long as it's using one of those products. And by the way, it's not an either-or decision. Every institution can use these off-the-shelf products, which they can access capital markets for, and have their own proprietary lending processes for character-based loans and so forth, which they continue to fund internally. But if your institution wants to grow and get bigger and have more impact and take out cost, capital market access is critical. But the good news is that because here in the US we have these scalable technology-driven products, you can access capital markets with, even if you're not a large institution yourself.
Claudia.
Lots to think about. Hi, I'm Claudia Veek, and I run Cameo, which is a California network of micro-business lenders and technical assistance providers. And I had a question for Brad, actually. You mentioned the complementariness between Funding Circle and micro-business lending, and I wondered if you could clarify that, maybe what's actual and what might be in the future.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for the question. Cameo is a great group. We've enjoyed speaking with you guys. So, to speak to the complementary nature, and I guess what I'm alluding to there is sometimes it's called the missing middle in terms of, our product starting at $25,000, our average loan size being kind of in the $100,000 north range, leaves a gap on the smaller end for the microfinancing products that many of you specialize in, and some of the other lenders that were up here are focused upon. And so, there's what's exciting about this space in peer-to-peer and beyond balance sheet lenders as well, but the technology explosion is it's really providing a number of new options that make a lot of sense depending on the business and the stage of business and where it is. So when I speak to kind of the complementary nature that our product serves, a microfinance type product in the $0 to $50,000 range is a great way for a business to get started and get off the ground. We like to see, not surprisingly, some track record, as it relates to the loan that we're giving out and the ability to repay that loan. And so borrowers who have used a microfinance product have had success doing that, and then essentially use us to fill that middle gap between a microfinance type product, a smaller, small business loan, and ultimately, the path to bankability is kind of what I was alluding to when I spoke about us filling a very complementary role, to a microfinance product.
Brad, you described product complementarity. When you think about either the user experience or the process, do you see complementarity between what Funding Circle does and the work that the organizations in this group do?
Absolutely. We are, as I spoke to kind of the human element, I mean, where we feel like we're winning business and where we're winning is really in the experience. And experience can be broadly defined by a lot of different things, but it's the intuitive nature of our platform, which we're continuing to invest in and involve as it relates to our web-based application process, dashboards, et cetera. The experience that you receive through our account management team, our credit team, the access to those individuals, understanding what is driving the decisions that we're delivering, and the speed with which we can deliver them. A lot of things have jumped out, but the one that really jumps out at me in terms of where we want to devote more resource and time and effort, and again where I see complementary features is the educational component. The borrowers that we're working with are great small business owners. What they do best is they operate really well, and what we hope to do is again put them in a healthy product that makes sense for their business, remove a lot of the frictions that have historically existed with respect to traditional banking products, and then also empower them to be able to succeed going forward. And so a lot of things as it relates to educating a small business owner about what it looks like to run audited financials, balance sheets, P&Ls, outstanding debt worksheets that we require from an underwriting perspective. You can just imagine some of the, as we all I'm sure have seen, some of the financials we'll receive from some of our potential small business borrowers. And it's in no way their fault. It's just sometimes it's a lack of resource, awareness, education, whatever it may be, that I think we could do and will continue to strive to do a better job of providing the resources to empower those small businesses on top of just the capital resources that we're providing through our loan product.
So, Ira, I want to come back to you and the idea of the CDFI fund creating a platinum fund. Given the fiscal environment, the desire to avoid congressional action, and the CDFI fund's desire, arguably, to not focus on an asset class and keep the fund very flexible, how can you imagine achieving the objectives of your recommendation absent action from Congress or the fund?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because clearly when we met with Treasury, CDFI fund acting director and the team, they were concerned about statute and whether they could do a carve-out, et cetera. So, but I don't think we have to create total dependency on Treasury. It would just be much easier if you could start there. And in fact, a lot of the things that we're proposing, such as having a data platform and a rating system, such as capacity building, such as private investment funds interested in coming into the sector, and also if we were able to get CRA lenders and foundations to pool, we could very well start the basis of a platinum fund with